What up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo's full breakdown and review of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Season 7, Episode 10. And we are still social distancing. This is the way.
This is the way.
And warning, there will be spoilers.
And remember, if you like what we do here, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified of future content.
And if you like this video, give it a like and share it with all of your friends, because we know they would like to see it also. Episode 10, The Phantom Apprentice. And in a similar vein to the previous episode, this episode opens up with a Lucasfilm Limited production, and it's followed by the red variation of the logo, and then the title of the episode, Part 2, Phantom Menace. And a new theme plays. There's no newsreel, and there's no moral for this episode. And this episode begins in the inner city of Sundari. Ahsoka is surrounded by the Mandalorians.
I absolutely love this. It picks right up where we left off. I mean, there's like no break. I really like you pointed that out. There wasn't even any time for the whole newsreel thing. We didn't get the announcer letting us know what happened. It was just picked right up where we left off in the last episode.
And probably because everyone watched last week's episode 4 or 5 times. They were ready for this one to get started.
And this was a longer episode, too. I think it was a full 28 minutes.
Yep, it was. And then as Maul steps out of the shadows, he knows her name. Although, he's not familiar to her. Ahsoka's like, oh, I know you. And Maul kind of chuckles, saying that he's pretty sure they have several mutual friends. Ahsoka activates that beacon on her gauntlet, which alerts Rex and his squad to her location. And they enter the tunnels to trace her signal. And Maul continues telling Ahsoka he was certain, Obi-Wan Kenobi would have been the one to search for him, perhaps bringing along his loyal foil, Anakin Skywalker. Ahsoka says that Kenobi had more important engagement, leading Maul to wonder if the moment is upon them, which there is a lot of parallels with Revenge of the Sith going on, and this is one of them. I think this is the first time, not the first time, but another time that Maul makes it known that he knows more of Sidious's plan than probably anyone else in the galaxy.
Yeah, I definitely I picked up on that too. We're going to see throughout this episode that there were a lot of parallels, not even just to Revenge of the Sith, but there were a lot of parallels to Maul and Sidious. And I can't wait till we get into that.
I love that all this is taking place in a different part of the universe with these main characters that were created. They weren't created for this show, but they focused on in this show. And they, now they're showing what they're doing. And they didn't have time to show it in the movies. Obviously, the movies were 3 hours long and, not as well written. But at least we're seeing what all these other characters are doing at that same time in the universe. I think it's genius.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Dave Filoni has said that he wanted this to end with what these characters are doing during all that's going on during Revenge of the Sith. And I mean, he's knocking it out of the park. Maul is kind of wondering why they sent Ahsoka. And new Ahsoka, which I love, she's like, well, why don't you surrender to me and we can go ask him? And Maul's, surrender would be pointless because he believes the Republic and the Jedi will no longer be controlling interest in the galaxy. When Ahsoka asks him who will be, he just looks at her and says, oh, is it going to be you? And he goes, no, Darth Sidious.
I like how when he's talking about this stuff, he almost has just like the way that he speaks, he almost has like a bit of he's almost getting off on thinking about how the dark side has taken over, because the way that he's just like, oh, Darth Sidious.
I love how when Maul talks though, and he's all just so, throughout the whole series, he's just so calm, and he's like, here's, I've thought about this and this is what's going to happen. That's just what it seems like. He's really calm, cool, collected, with the whole thing being evil and everything, like he's got all the cards in his hand or something, but, he's very self-assured.
Well, he gets a little manic later in the episode, which I think really shows his once he finds out that, hey, this is actually going down soon, he starts to get a little manic and, wondering if maybe Order 66 is going to target him too. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Rex and his troops enter and they're firing on the Mandalorians. You know, Ahsoka and Maul activate their lightsabers, and a brief duel happens. And Maul's like, not yet, and uses
Right.
the Force.
I think what he's referring to when he says not yet, because he kind of says it with a bit of like a worry look in his eyes, because, and we're going to get to this later on in the episode, but he has a plan for the Mandalorians and like what his ultimate goal on Mandalore was. And so it's like he knows that he can't afford to get captured or have the Mandalorians destroyed yet, because he's got other plans for them. So it's almost like he's saying, no, this can't happen yet.
Yep. And he uses the Force to throw Ahsoka and Rex into the wall, so him and his troops escape. You know, Ahsoka and the clones pursue, but they lose them in the tunnels. Then we go into, shockingly, a throne room where we see Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, and Rex talking to Obi-Wan via hologram. And Bo-Katan says there are some small firefights in Sector 11, but the clones have proven effective. You know, however, they need to capture Maul quickly before, you know, he can unravel their victory and escape. Ahsoka tells them that Maul mentioned the name Darth Sidious, and Bo-Katan asks who it is, and Kenobi agrees to tell them what he knows.
Yeah, so I like this little callback to episode 2 when he mentions that Dooku had told him about Darth Sidious. But then I also really, really like how it also he mentions a piece from Revenge of the Sith, which was really cool.
Yep. And the Jedi Council, he tells them the Jedi Council suspects that Darth Sidious is the Sith Lord who has orchestrated the entire Clone Wars, played both sides from the beginning. And he says he learned the name from Count Dooku, like Doug was saying, and that the chance of learning any more from Dooku has been lost because Anakin killed him while rescuing the Chancellor.
Now, did you catch the look on Ahsoka's face? So when
she heard that Anakin killed him, yeah, it's not like he hasn't killed anybody before, you know.
Right, I was thinking that too. Like, I don't know why it. So okay, I get that. It would have made more sense if they would have said he killed him when he was unarmed, literally, because his hands got cut off. It would have sounded a little bit darker if they would have said, yeah, Anakin killed an unarmed combatant. Then it'd be like, oh wow, I can't believe Anakin did that. But the fact that they just said, yeah, Anakin killed him, like, yeah, and how many other people?
Mm-hmm.
But see, I took it like she still has some sort of connection to him, and perhaps felt like when he killed her, killed him, it was out of anger or something. But you know, you're right. They're kind of far away. But you know, Obi-Wan says, "Hey, capture them all," and he may be able to fill in the missing pieces. You know, Ahsoka kind of asks him for more men, but Kenobi says, "Hey, I've been assigned to hunt down General Grievous." So Ahsoka's like, "Well, can Anakin come?" But Kenobi says he needs to speak to her alone. So Rex and Bo-Katan leave, and Obi-Wan tells her that Anakin is on a special assignment from the Jedi Council to observe Supreme Chancellor Palpatine and report back to them, as Palpatine has been in power well beyond his original term, and the Jedi want to know what his intentions are. You know, Ahsoka's kind of thrown off by that, can't believe the Jedi want to spy on him, or that Anakin would go along with it, because Palpatine has been such a great friend and mentor to him, which is kind of foreshadowing when she's talking to Maul later, almost why I can see where she might start believing it. You know, Kenobi agrees, saying that it'd be best if Ahsoka could speak to him. He says the council isn't always right, and he needs her help. And before
I'm starting to wonder if
he agrees with her side of it. Like, they're not always right. Maybe we cast you out, you know, incorrectly. You know, that's the feeling I got from that conversation.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm kind of wondering if, so he mentions that Ahsoka should speak to Anakin, but I don't think, she must not. I don't think that must happen because we talked about this in the last in our last episode review, how Ahsoka says in Rebels, the last time she saw Anakin, he was on his way to save Chancellor Palpatine. So either she means that that's the last time she saw him in person, or she just never gets around to like doing a holo call with him or whatever.
And I think, you know, from a certain point of view, no, I'm just kidding. I think it's the latter, because I do think, you know, she's kind of busy right now. You know, she's hands full with Maul. You know, who knows, you know, we know what happens at the end of this and what's going to happen possibly next episode. So I think it's just she never gets around to it. And so that is the last time she has spoken or seen him. before, unfortunately, she runs into him, later on.
I'm sorry, Keith. Did you say that she has spoken?
I have spoken. Nice. But before they can say any more, Rex comes in, tells her there's been another attack. And, Kenobi tells Ahsoka that it's best that she goes. And, leaving, Ahsoka tells Kenobi to tell Anakin. And then you see Ahsoka and Rex head to the docks where a lot of clone troopers are dead. Ahsoka then attends to a wounded trooper named Sterling, who tells her that Maul took an interest in ARC Trooper Jesse, who was older than the rest of the troopers, and took him alive following a mind probe.
So let me ask about that. Was there a reason why that line mattered? The fact that he was an older clone, is that significant? Do you think?
Maybe he had more information. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, at first I thought it was because maybe his chip was older and Maul knew about it, but I don't think it would matter. I think it's the same chip that's embedded in Maul. So
I was thinking at first that maybe he was one of the first clones that didn't have the chip.
Oh.
And I was thinking maybe that was the direction they were going with it, because I couldn't figure out any other reason why they would mention that. It seemed like they mentioned it on purpose, like as if it had some sort of significance. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but I really do think Maul was concerned about Order 66 and where he was in that whole situation.
Yep. Then meanwhile, back in the tunnels, Jesse's telling Maul and his Maul DeLoreans that they're wasting their time because he's not going to tell them anything. Maul's amused, he kind of chuckles, and he believes his statement to be true. Maul remarks that clones are bred for combat and tells them that they are part of a greater plan, which he admit he was not made aware of. Maul says he's played his part and was cast aside and forgotten, but he survived and can thrive in the chaos to come.
So this power that Maul has to pull information out of people, is that a specific Sith power where they can actually read people's minds?
I think it is. I think he uses it instead of being able to, push a suggestion into the mind, he's able to extract information.
It's something that Darth Vader did not have, though, because you remember when he worked on Princess Leia, he had that little droid that would give her the shot. So obviously, it's not universal to all.
Actually, I think he might have a little bit. I don't know if it was as strong as Maul, but I think he might have had a little bit, because if you remember, he when he's talking to Luke, he says kind of inquisitively, "A sister."
Yeah, that's true.
So where else did he get that info from?
And it could also be that Maul, being a Night brother, they might have focus on different Force powers, because we know the Night Sisters do a whole lot of things that no other, Force sensitive people do. So it may have been something that maybe Maul did and used. Maybe the Emperor kind of taught Vader how to use it just slightly and not anything, as good as Maul.
Yeah, I've read and I've heard in other places that the Emperor never really showed Vader that much in the way of the Force, never really mentored him as much as the Jedi did, and purposely made his suit so it would hold him back, on purpose, because he did not actually want Vader to pose a threat to him. Which
is how Palpatine rolls. I mean, the guy is an expert planner, and everything he did is just, throughout the movies, well, outside of Episode 9.
Well, that's exactly what Maul...
You can almost call it the Palpatine saga, because he planned everything everything that happened.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Maul says in this episode. He actually explains that to Ahsoka.
And at this point, Maul tells Saxton that information is a great commodity and tells him to go eliminate the prime ministers to ensure that, that information does not become an asset to their enemy. So Saxton leaves to go assassinate him. Maul turns his attention back to Jesse, and Jesse finally tells him that he won't be telling him anything. Maul doesn't care and says that he will make his mind speak or break. And Maul does a mind probe, and Maul questions Jesse about Ahsoka, and he struggles against Maul right there. And then we're back in the palace. Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, and Rex meet with the Prime Minister in his cell, and Almec is flattered to see him. Bo-Katan demands to know what Maul's escape plan is, and he's like, Maul is not trying to escape because he sees no point in doing so. And, Bo-Katan asks if Maul believes he can defeat them. He's been consumed by a strange sense of dread for the past several weeks, which is him knowing that this plan of Sidious is about to, be kicked off in full gear. Ahsoka asks if he mentioned Sidious. Elmick says he does not recall. And then Bo-Katan asks why he wanted Kenobi here. Elmick reveals that Maul wanted someone else. When Ahsoka asks who, at first he's refusing to cooperate, and Ahsoka asks Bo-Katan to help him remember. And she's about to rough him up, and he finally decides to speak. But before he can say anything, he's shot by Gar Saxton. And Bo-Katan takes off to pursue him, while Rex calls a medic, and Ahsoka tends to the wounded Almec, who tells her that Maul had a vision and that a name came to him. He mentions Skywalker before breathing his last breath, and Bo-Katan and her warriors pursue Saxton, engaging him in a gun battle. And he uses his rocket launcher. I love when the Mandalorians use rocket launchers. I don't know why, just because probably Boba Fett. I wanted him to use it so bad in the movies. But uses it to blast a hole leading out of the palace, allowing him to escape. Bo-Katan is pursuing him down an elevator shaft, and the two fight on top of this lift. And then I thought, which was such a cool scene, Saxon's attacking her with the flamethrower, and Bo-Katan's using her power shield to reflect it. Then the two get separated, and Bo-Katan is caught under Rex and another clone trooper's lift. She escapes, being crushed to death, but Saxon has managed to escape the palace.
I wonder if we'll see in future episodes of The Mandalorian, we see him get, upgraded quite a bit with every flashback that he has. But I wonder if he's going to get one of these power shields, because that'd be pretty cool to go along with his flamethrower and other arsenal.
After seeing it in this, God, I hope he does. Then we see Maul telling his syndicate leaders to go into hiding. And we actually see Drevin Voss from Solo there also. He has a little cameo there. We'll put up a screenshot of it.
I noticed that too. That was pretty cool.
It was very well done. Maul thanks Saxton and Rook for liberating him from Sidious and his apprentice Count Dooku. Maul regrets underestimating Dooku, but says that he and Dooku were both one step behind Sidious the whole time. And Maul says that the dark side has never been stronger. And he almost, Doug and I were kind of talking earlier about this, and you almost see him feeling sadness for Dooku, knowing that he's in the same position that Maul was, and thinks he's, going to make some power play against Sidious, and find out that he's really been a rookie this whole time.
So do you think if Anakin had spared Dooku, do you think that Dooku would have turned on Sidious and actually given him up?
No.
I don't think so either. No, I think he's very loyal, and if he had gotten up from the pose he was in with the two lightsabers, he would have just viewed that as part of the plan, and he would have continued on, I think.
Yeah, I think he believed in Sidious's plan and knew he was better off as for the time being, his apprentice until maybe the time was right. This, I don't think, was the right time. Rook asks what all that means, and Maul explains that the galaxy will be remade, what we saw from the trailer earlier on, and that in the chaos, they must seize whatever power they can. He tells the Mandalorians that it is not their way to die in gutters. If they die, he promises it'll be on the field of battle, and that they will die as warriors. The Mandalorians are all cheering this because, that's their religion.
I wonder if he'll keep his promise.
A little foreshadowing there. Then we see the clone troopers are evacuating the civilians into shelters while Rex, Ahsoka, and Bo-Katan kind of watch. And you see the citizens kind of grumbling, and Bo-Katan is, this occupation cannot last much longer because the people will not stand for it. She also says that she's not going to stand for it. And Rex reminds her that she asked for the help and that his men are not content being a police force. Yeah. And Ahsoka promises that the Republic forces are going to leave as soon as they have captured Maul. And she's like, well, they'll have their opportunity. And then once again, as they enter the throne room, they're greeted by Maul, who says that he agrees, which was so great. Seated behind him is bound Jesse. Bo-Katan charges at him with her blasters, and he's just deflecting the blast so easily. Takes the Force, levitates her up, and asks if that's the rightful way to treat her, or if that is the right way to treat her rightful ruler before throwing her down. And then as a show of good faith, Maul returns Jesse, and he uses the Force to release Jesse from his binders before sending him back to Rex.
Do you know what this reminded me of? It kind of reminded me of Anakin in the previous episode. So when Anakin was walking up to save Obi-Wan from the droids and everything, and he was just kind of casually dodging the laser blasts, I kind of saw that comparison in Maul in this episode, the way that he was just kind of, whatever, deflecting them, no big deal, whatever. He's so calm, so collected. He's almost like just another side of the coin of Anakin in a way.
Yeah, he's so strong.
He thinks about all of his. He's a very deep thinker, but when he's up for action, then he just goes into action mode. But when he's not fighting, he thinks very carefully about what he says and does.
And I mean, just fighting one blaster person, he's not scared of at all. I mean, if it was like 10 Mandalorians, he might have a fight on his hands. But one just coming at him, he knew he could just barely use any power and kind of shrug her off. But
so, he's not really wrong when he does say rightful ruler, because if you remember back to the episode where he fought Pre Vizsla, he did beat him fair and square. Like, he never used the Force in that. He fought him with lightsabers, and then when he lost his lightsaber, he beat him. Like, he was just punching him and kicking him. So he did kind of technically beat him fair and square, and that is the way of the Mandalorian. And I get that she said, we would never have an outsider as our ruler. But, I mean, we see in episodes of The Mandalorian, obviously, they don't really have an issue accepting outsiders into their ranks as, younglings or whatever, foundlings.
Yeah. Rex is asking if Jesse's all right. And Jesse's, I'm so sorry. I told him everything. And then, Rex takes Jesse out while gunfire breaks out. Gar Saxon and his warriors attack, and Ahsoka tells Bo Katan to go help her people, or her people need her. And we see outside, Saxon and his warriors are attacking the clones who have gathered outside the palace. And as the battle rages, Maul remarks that the belligerents outside are blissfully arrogant or ignorant, which is so well done. Ahsoka demands to know what is going and suggests that he could save it for the council. Maul says that she is the only one he wanted to speak with and asked if she was not cast out of the Jedi Order. And Ahsoka replies that she left voluntarily.
So he must have got a good deal of information out of that clone.
Maul, again, being the calm, collected guy when he's not fighting, he's a master manipulator too. Because, we saw him do this. Well, I mean, some of us saw this. People who've watched Rebels, he converted Ezra pretty easily to follow him around a lot. So I'm not expecting Ahsoka to, listen to anything he says. She's far more along than Ezra ever was.
I don't know. Ezra is kind of dumb. I feel like that was probably pretty easy for Maul.
Yeah.
Well,
he didn't have half the training that Ahsoka did.
And when she says, did we get to that part yet? When she says that she will work with him, I was really surprised, actually.
No, we didn't get there yet. Spoiler alert.
I'm sorry.
No
10
worries.
seconds ahead.
Maul reminds her that she left because of the hypocrisy of the Jedi Council and adds that they were both tools for a greater power. Ahsoka responds that she is here to bring him to justice, but Maul, justice is merely the construct of the current power base, a base which, according to his calculations, is about to change. Ahsoka asks if Darth Sidious is behind it, and this is one of my favorite lines, which kind of we talked about the Palpatine saga. Maul confirms that it's true and adds that Sidious is going to reveal himself and is behind everything. Ahsoka suggests that Maul could help the Jedi stop Darth Sidious before it's too late. Maul retorts that it's already too late for because the Republic has already fallen. He adds there is no justice, no law, and no order except for the one that will replace it. Maul says that the time of the Jedi has passed and they cannot defeat Sidious except if the two of them work together. And as explosions rage, Maul tells Ahsoka that every choice she has made has led her to this moment. He stretches out his hand, and then outside you see clone troopers and AT walkers engage in battle with the Mandalorians. Saxon and his troops are cutting through the ranks pretty easily at first. You see an explosion shatter the window of the throne room, which is one of the most beautiful animations in this entire episode that was beautifully animated.
Absolutely. I mean, I was blown away, just like the glass was blown away. I was blown away by that scene. I had to like stop and replay it. It was amazing. I mean, so far this last episode and then today's episode, I've already been impressed just by the story, but then they really upped the visual game in here too. So really, shout out to the FX designers, the graphic designers, everybody who worked on this. Just good job.
They really did go way out of their way. Even, we found out that, Ray Park and I forget the girl's name, they did a bunch of motion capture for the lightsaber battles in this episode. And it really absolutely paid off because it was just visually probably the best lightsaber battles we got in Star Wars.
I was thinking the same thing. When I was watching, I'm like, they had to have had somebody doing that and tracking them with the equipment, because there's no way you can just animate that. That the movements were so good.
Yep. And getting back to that glass shattering, it reminded me when I saw it of the glass shattering when Mace and the Emperor are battling. And I think there's some other parallels during this fight to it because, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But, Ahsoka says that she will help him on the condition that he answers one question. Maul says that all she has to do is ask it. And Ahsoka wants to know what he wants with Anakin Skywalker. And Maul says that Skywalker is the key to everything. And she's like, oh, to bring balance to the Force? And Maul replies that Skywalker is the key to destroying the Sith, and that he has been long groomed for his role as Sidious's new apprentice. And this is where
Wait, hold
Ahsoka...
on. Did you say to kill the Sith?
I did.
Yeah.
Destroying everything, pretty much. Sith, Jedi. But he would be the key if they would be able to destroy the Sith if Anakin wasn't turned, I think he meant.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah.
Because that would leave the Sith Lord without an apprentice, and that's his, obviously his favorite apprentice. And for him to take that away from him, what would he do?
Yeah, so Keith and I were actually talking a little bit about this before. It's almost unclear when Maul says that he wants to kill Anakin. It's I wonder, if he wants to do it to spite Palpatine, or if he really, truly wants to stop his plan.
Well, I think the only reason he would want to stop his plan is so that he could put himself in charge. So he does have multiple motivations to do it.
Yeah, I think he wouldn't mind being in power, but I think his main motivation is spite, because he has been cast aside by the Emperor. His brother was killed by him. He's been pretty much, cast aside and almost meaningless at this point. He's trying to grab that power. This is where, Ahsoka calls him a liar. And Maul's like, I'm telling the truth, which we all know he is. Maul explains that he was so certain of this fate that he orchestrated the conflict on Mandalore in order to lure Anakin and Kenobi, there to kill them, thus depriving Sidious of his prized pupil.
And to me, this kind of just reminds me of Palpatine, like a parallel to him. So Palpatine kind of manipulated the entire galaxy by, starting this galactic civil war between the Separatist movement and the Republic, trying to make sure that he was able to grab power, which, I mean, when you actually put it out on paper, it sounds ridiculous, but that he would actually go through all that just to become the Supreme Chancellor. But, if you think about it, Maul was kind of like that on a smaller scale. He planned all of this just to get Obi-Wan and Anakin there.
He was definitely Emperor Light. He learned from his master while he was with him. Ahsoka disagrees, draws her lightsabers. She tells him that she knows Anakin and that his visions are flawed. Maul remarks, I love this, that the Padawan needs one last lesson, and draws his lightsabers. And if you listen really carefully at this point, you can hear the Emperor's shriek from, at least it sounds like it to me. You guys let us know in the comments if I'm completely off my rocker. The Emperor's shriek from Revenge of the Sith when he's fighting Mace and all of the others. But I thought I heard it, and I was kind of listening and watching it again, trying to listen to it. It wasn't as clear the second time to me, but let me know if you guys heard it out there. Ahsoka is taunting Maul at this point about his fighting abilities, and Maul says, oh, you have Kenobi's arrogance. And Ahsoka counters that she has many qualities for him to dislike, which I thought was
I
pretty
really
awesome.
liked that too. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I like how, even though they're having this like all out brawl in this lightsaber battle, they still have time to kind of like quip at each other.
It was really well done. Then outside, Saxon's forces, kind of blast a hole through the ranks of the clones. And as Maul is initially getting the upper hand over Ahsoka, but she kind of kicks him and throws him through the pane glass panel. And I really liked it. The second time I watched it, you could see where his double-bladed lightsaber, cracked the window. You could see like the body and then his lightsaber. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then you see Rex and Bo-Katan's forces reinforce the other clone troopers with some gunships, and they start to really bomb the Mandalorians and start to gain the upper hand. And then you see Ahsoka catches Maul climbing up a building, and she hurries up after him. The Republic reinforcements capture, several of the Mandalorians, and Gar Saxton retreats and calls Maul for reinforcements. However, Maul, abandons him and tells him that
I absolutely love this line. When they're like, please, we're outnumbered. You've got to come and help us. And Maul just real quiet and calm. I don't think so.
Yeah, die well, Mandalorian.
Right. Oh God, Maul, just a master manipulator, just totally took advantage of those poor Mandalorians, threw them out to the slaughter, and just like he said down in the sewers, you guys will all die as warriors. I just don't think they realized that he meant today.
Yeah.
Or that he would abandon them and let them die.
Great king.
Yeah. And Ahsoka catches up to him on the bridge, and they continue their lightsaber duel. Maul tells Ahsoka that they could have destroyed Darth Sidious, and Ahsoka says that she would not want him to take Darth Sidious's place. And as they fight, Maul's gaining the upper hand and pushes Ahsoka off the platform. Ahsoka manages to hang on, and it sounded to me, I don't know what you guys think, was that Duel of the Fates playing behind it while they were battling?
Yes, I heard that too. I think it was.
Sounded at least like a variation of it. And then a starship kind of arrives above them, and the pilot calls them all and saying they must depart immediately. So I don't know if he knew that Order 66 was coming soon or who was in the ship. But, Maul's running up to scaffolding to reach the ship, but Ahsoka attacks him, and the two resume, pairing
Now,
blades.
who was that was coming to pick up Maul? Like, who was he trying to leave with?
It's a good question. I don't know. I was thinking about who it could be, and I'm not really sure who is close enough to Maul to do that for.
Because unless he had another separate faction of the Mandalorians that he had already told, hey, this is what my plan is, and you're going to come and retrieve me, and we're going to go off world or something. Otherwise, I don't know who it could have been.
See, and I was thinking
this is before Solo, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be Kira.
No.
You know what? You bring up a good point, Dave. Yeah, it might have been somebody from the Shadow Collective.
Well, if it was Crimson Dawn, he told them all to go into hiding, at least the leaders. So maybe he does have a few Mandalorians that he keeps close and knew of this plan, or part of the crime syndicate. And I wonder if we'll find out who that is in the next episode, because they kind of kept that on the DL. And then Maul actually manages to knock both of Ahsoka's blades and kind of slashes the platform she's standing on.
It's like she just got those back from Anakin. Dude, why would you lose them already?
Well, they're blue. She's got to lose them anyway.
Yep, very true. Then on the ground, Rex and his men are taking Saxon into custody, and Rex kind of sees Ahsoka and Maul above and hurries to get a gunship to reach them. And then with the platform giving away, Maul offers Ahsoka one last chance to join him or die. Ahsoka rejects his offer, and he advances with his lightsaber. Ahsoka grabs the blade and trips him over, causing him to fall. And I like this part because he's hard to kill. Before he falls to his death, Ahsoka uses the Force to suspend him in midair, which she was listening to Obi-Wan, don't try and kill him, capture him, because not only is he hard to kill, but he's got valuable information they want.
Yeah.
And they use a stun blast on him just to make sure.
Yeah.
So they definitely.
And he lets everybody know.
But okay, so we kind of briefly. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say he lets everybody know like, hey, I'm not just worried about myself. This is going to affect everyone in the universe, everyone in the galaxy or whatever. We are all going to die, not just me. Just let me fall to my death because that's how I want to die.
Yeah, so we kind of briefly touched on this before. Keith was mentioning that, Maul has this total manic breakdown because I think you guys are right. I think he realizes, oh man, Order 66 is either has happened now or it's coming soon. And I don't know if I'm going to be caught up in that. I don't know if, I'm one of the targets because we're not entirely clear if Order 66 was just for the clones to hunt down the Jedi. And also, he seems to imply to Ahsoka when he sees the clones in the gunship, like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know who to trust because I think he knows that it's going to be them and that they could potentially turn on her and try to kill her and or Maul.
Yeah, and yeah, he's yelling that everyone is going to die. And Ahsoka looks really troubled by this. And I wonder if this happens right as Anakin turns to the dark side. And maybe her troubled look is part Anakin, her sensing him going to the dark side, and what Maul is yelling that they're all going to die.
Yeah, that could very well be because, so I went back and I was rewatching the Revenge of the Sith. And it's hard to tell the time frame in the Star Wars universe because they seem to jump to different points in time very quickly. Because at one point you see Anakin coming back after killing Count Dooku, and Padme tells him, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And then, like 2 scenes later, she looks like she's ready to pop. So, I mean, we don't know how much time has passed on Mandalore while this battle has been going on. For all we know, everything in Revenge of the Sith could have been taking place this whole time.
Yeah, and Ahsoka kind of uses the Force to move them closer to those gunships that are coming up, and they capture them with grappling cables. And that's where Maul tells her that doesn't know what she's done, and they're all going to die. And then Rex stuns Maul and tells Ahsoka that they will take him from here. And Ahsoka is just kind of left standing on the edge of the beam watching the cracked canopy. And that's where the episode ends.
Another silent ending, well, at least for the first few seconds. But, they're knocking it out of the park, like you said. Everything they're doing here, these last 2 episodes have been, the best I've seen in the whole series. I can't wait to see what they're doing with the next 2.
Now, what would you? What's your review on this? What do you score this episode?
Oh, this episode's a 10. It's a home run for me.
Doug, what about you?
So I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. I'm going to give it just a 9.5 out of 10. It was really good. Absolutely loved the visual effects like we were talking about before. I absolutely love the little hidden Easter eggs that are in there. I feel like I kind of liked the last episode a little bit better, but I really, really enjoyed this one. But I think I might end up thinking different. I might end up giving it a 10 out of 10 after seeing how the next episode follows this up. Like, I feel like it's going to be one complete saga once I see that. And, maybe it'll help tie everything together. But right now, really good, really excellent.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with, Dave. I give it a 10 out of 10. As I was watching this episode, it just felt like to me like this is going to stand the test of time. I mean, in my opinion, it was the best Clone Wars episode that we have gotten to this point. I mean, it could be trumped maybe the next 2, but I mean, it was by far the best we've gotten out of this entire series to me. The way it intersects with Revenge of the Sith is seamless. The lightsaber battles with Anakin and Ahsoka are perfect. And here, Ray Park and Lauren Mary Kim provided the motion capture, and it absolutely paid off with all the detail they're doing in the animation and using the motion capture to make these lightsaber battles look so much more real. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And Maul was perfect in this episode. Him knowing what is coming and being at the end of it completely manic when he's been so calm throughout this episode, knowing what's happened. As soon as he knows this moment is hitting, he's absolutely manic and would rather die falling from that scaffolding than be captured. And I just thought everything they did in this episode was, perfect. I can find no flaws with it. And I know it's just going to stand the test of time. But, what do you guys all think? Put in the comments, are we out of our minds? Or is this episode as good as we think it is?
I mean, we are all going to die, Keith.
Well, not us. We're not force sensitive. Vader, he might kill some people, but they need people to rule over. So as long as we're not showing any Jedi abilities, we're probably okay.